Not only through to the next round of the Copa del Rey, 3 clear of a Barcelona side who seem to be just throwing darts at random players at the moment. A whole host of players they've been linked to, of course, looking to replace Luis Suarez, given that he's out for the rest of the season. Aubameyang, Rodrigo, Tadic, Richarlison today, rumours of that. Villian, the latest one to move from Chelsea to Barcelona. Sid Lowe is with us. Sid, what's going on?
I was worried you might ask that because I don't have an answer. This doesn't make very much sense. It feels like a board that is scrabbling around, desperately trying to find a solution, unable to do so. I mean, to put this in basic terms for you, I'll tell you one of the headlines I saw today. It said, Barcelona want a proven striker who's cheap. And as I thought to myself, yeah, I'd quite like a Ferrari for $5, but it's just not going to happen, you know? And this really is... Look, of course this was forced upon them in the sense that Luis Suarez got an injury they didn't anticipate. That means he's out for the rest of the season. That brings forward the search for a striker, which they knew they were going to have to deal with in the summer. But how can you be in a position where you don't have a squad with any kind of backup striker? And yet, of course, back away from that phrase I've just said, and well, yeah, they have. They've got Antoine Griezmann. And yet they're even now, without Suarez, not considering Griezmann as their number 9, not considering him as someone who can play that kind of role. And frankly, in terms of organisationally, in terms of the way that they're going about this, Barcelona are just at every turn seemingly making it even worse.
If they're struggling in that area, which they are, and they're panicking, I mean, it's probably not going to happen. It's getting very late in the day. But if they're looking at somebody who's got physicality and can link up and score goals, they could do worse than look at Raul Jimenez at Wolves, in my opinion.
Yeah, but how much is he going to cost?
Now, I know he's had his trials and tribulations before at other clubs, but, you know, you can't just judge players by that. You have to judge them by what they're doing now. And he is one of the...
But he's going to say, he's going to be 50, 60 million, isn't he? And Sid, this is a problem as well. Barca don't have any money, do they?
Right, well, I mean, this is the thing. So, for example, when the Richarlison rumour breaks this afternoon, I must admit my response to that was a single 2-letter word repeated endlessly, that word, of course, being ha. And it was just laughable because this is Barcelona.
No said no.
No. And you know, this is a club that, and look, football has taught us millions of times never to believe that anything is absolutely not true until it doesn't happen, or anything that is true until it does. But this is a club that, of course, had to pull out of the negotiations with Valencia over Rodrigo, who was likely to be around 60 million, because they couldn't afford to do it now. So they're not going to suddenly turn up at Everton and say, here's 80 million, give us Richarlison. But they haven't got that 80 million, as you rightly say, Dan. They're now kind of scratching around, trying to find a way of generating money, selling on, for example, the 2 strikers that they do have in the squad, Carlos Perez and Abel Ruiz, two guys from the youth system, and trying to say, OK, well, we'll get maybe 10 million from there and another 10 million from there, and maybe we can get Rakitic to go. And it's, I mean, it genuinely, this sounds like an exaggeration, but I really don't think it is. You watch this and you think, this is desperate.
This is not new, though. It's not. Let's not forget, for the last couple of years, we've had guys, whenever Luis Suarez has been injured, show up in Barcelona and play for Barcelona, guys like Kevin Prince-Boateng. Played in that striker position in an advanced role for Barcelona. So the lack of planning and foresight for people whose job is this very responsibility. Know that Luis Suarez needs a break every once in a while, or may get injured, or may get suspended. All of these things are possible. So maybe you have somebody already in place who could be that guy, and who would want to be that guy. And yet, you're finding yourself scrambling around. And you've been doing this for years now. Again, I go back to that name. Kevin Prince-Boateng played striker for Barcelona at one point. It's not new. The issues for Barcelona are not new, and the lack of answers and the lack of solutions are not new either.
The question, though, becomes how did Barcelona find themselves here? Rather ridiculously. In the pre-season, it was Real Madrid who were in crisis mode, and everything seemed to be coming a part of the seams, and whether Zidane would be manager or not. And now, all of a sudden, they seem a well-oiled machine, playing fantastic football and winning games. And Real Madrid, given the issues that they have in trying to find a striker now, still have, or you would think, by all accounts, still have some kind of interest in Neymar in the summer. How does that work financially? Chopping and changing managers, have their third choice in place now. All this while having the best player on the planet in your dressing room. It's become farcical.
But that's part of the reason. Because you have the best player on the planet, you think that you can do these things. Because Messi is going to solve it for you. And you can be irresponsible in the way that you make decisions because as long as we have this guy, we have a chance. At some point, that magic is going to run out.
I mean, I get all that, and I get this chart, but they're not in the bottom half of the... And I get there's some desperate decisions being made, but there's 3 points between them and Real Madrid. So there is time for these players, good players, to come to the fore. There is time for this coach to come in and do a job and sort it out. It's, you know, they're not...
I've had enough of your optimistic ways,
I know,
Craig.
I do.
Hold on, but this again...
Craig says Barcelona are going to win it all.
All right, I tell you what, league's over then. 3 points, unassailable lead to Real Madrid. That's it, done. I mean...
But don't you feel like after Neymar left, they didn't really have a plan in place? Obviously, went Dembele, they went Coutinho, they went Griezmann, and it just hasn't worked.
Where did they finish last year in the league?
Of course, they won La Liga.
All right, okay.
But that's because they've got Lionel Messi.
And where's Lionel Messi now?
Still there, but
Right,
the problem
okay,
is when he's not doing his business.
Well, I get that.
How did Barcelona get on against Liverpool when Messi didn't turn up? They went to Anfield 3-0 up and they lost.
I understand there are fundamental problems with recruitment and other issues financially that Sid's brought up at Barcelona. I understand that. And they need to be addressed. However, they are in the Champions League still and they are very much in the race for La Liga still. If this Barcelona team wins La Liga this year, what's that going to say about Real Madrid?
But we're not talking about Real Madrid. We're talking about
But we
Barcelona.
will be.
We're talking about Barcelona.
But we will
We're
be.
talking about Barcelona with the best player in the world,
Who's-
yet they're not favourites to win the Champions League.
But
How
it doesn't
embarrassing is
matter.
that?
Oh, give it a rest.
Why?
They're not favourite. It's the worst thing in the world because they're not favourites. They're in the Champions League.
Barcelona going to win the Champions League, in your opinion?
It's possible.
Really? From what you've seen?
At the moment, but the games aren't happening for a little while. They're in the Champions League to be knocked out, if it happens, and they're in the title race still. I'll go back to my question. If they beat Real Madrid at the end of the season, what does that say about Real Madrid?
But we're not talking about Real Madrid, we're talking about Barcelona. We're talking about they are scrapping around Europe trying to find a striker to replace Luis Suarez.
And I get that. But what I'm saying is, they're still in every competition, the big ones, to win it. They're not out. They're not out the league race. They're not out the Champions League. They have a chance. They don't have the best squad by a long shot, but they have a chance. We're sitting here going, disaster. Disaster. Is it a disaster yet? If they win the league at the end of the year, is that a disaster?
Gab?
No, it's not a disaster. I do agree with Craig that let's leave the Champions League out of it. When you have a shutdown keeper at the back or you have Messi up front, you can win the Champions League in pretty much all circumstances. That said, I think there's 2 points to make here. One is financially, they're floating this idea of the fact that they can't do it because, of course, there's a salary cap in Spain and your budget is set at the start of the season. That's a bit of a myth because they could easily, if they find the right player, they could easily loan him with an obligation to buy in the summer. So that really shouldn't be a hurdle. I think the other thing, which we haven't discussed, which is I think more serious, is you just change managers. You brought in Quique Setién, who is much less of a pragmatist than Valverde. So you can't just get any old striker. For his play to work, he needs possession and he needs pressing and energy from frontmen. You already have Messi up front, so you're not going to get the pressing there. If you bring in a veteran striker who's going to sort of, stand around and feed off scraps and can't get around the pitch, you can forget the pressing part of the game, and that's really going to affect you on the pitch, which is why out of the grab bag of strikers that they've been linked with, if they have any nous about them, there's a whole bunch of them that you rule out straight off the bat, and you go for a younger energy guy if you're going to go down that route.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.